Today's daf we're going to be learning is the daf for Shabbat, Bava Metzia daf Mem Hey. We're going to get started from a review from Tanan Hatam, the Mishnah that we're quoting in maaser sheni. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to go through this Mishnah. I'm going to show you right now on the study guide. I recommend you use it. It was very helpful for me when preparing. I assume it will be helpful for you, I hope. We're going to have first this we had already yesterday, two different explanations between Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan about what the debate between Beit Shamai and Beit Hillel is. Then we're going to have a second possibility about what the machloka between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is. Okay, a second option of, again, two different understandings. We still don't know who said what. And a third understanding. Okay, that's going to take us through the majority of today's daf. So let's go up to the first one and let's go through again with the chart. Beit Shamai אומרים, lo yaseh adam slaim dinarei zahav u'beit Hillel mitirim. That's the basic mishnah that we have to figure out. I didn't even put the words here, but it basically means you have to remember always in your head, sela is kesef, is silver, and dinarei zahav is gold coins. Okay, dinarim, obviously dinarei zahav is gold, but dinarim we're going to call them in general, which are gold. So Beit Shammai says you cannot turn your silver into gold. Okay, you can't take your for maaser sheni. What happened? You took your fruits, you turned it into gold, silver coins. You cannot change them into gold coins. And Beit Hillel says you can change your silver coins into gold coins. You could do fruits to silver to gold. So Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish Chadamar machloket b'slaim al dinarim. Okay, that's the basic case of the machloket. Okay, that's where they disagree. You can see. Okay, let's focus right now on the first understanding. Okay, Beit Shammai holds that kesef, okay, get this straight, silver is a coin and gold is merchandise. Okay, that's going to help us a lot if you get that clear in your head. If that's the case, you can't transfer. Right? You can't do silver to gold because you can't transfer from coins onto merchandise. Okay, but Beit Hillel says silver is actually the merchandise one. That's the one that fluctuates in value. Zahav is the matbea, gold is the coin, and therefore you can move kesef onto zahav. What you can't do, according to Beit Hillel, is gold to silver, because that's the problematic direction. Okay, so they disagree about kesef to gold, and they disagree on gold to kesef. Okay, each one holds the reverse, because each one has a different view of which one is the one that's the merchandise. Okay, and again, when you redeem maaser sheni, it has to be redeemed onto money, not onto merchandise. Okay, that's as long as you haven't gotten to Jerusalem yet. Once you get to Jerusalem, you revert it back to merchandise. Now we're going, so again, it's all a difference of which one they view as the currency and which one they view as the merchandise. That's the main thing you have to understand right now. But when we get to the second explanation, we're going to say, within the first explanation of al peirot al dinarim divrei kol mechalelin. But fruits to gold, everybody says, according to this, we're now in this part of the chart, fruit to gold, where it's highlighted actually, because this is where the first explanation is going to differ from the second, and that's why I highlighted it. According to the first explanation, fruit to gold is totally fine, because even though Beit Shammai views gold, okay, Beit Hillel, of course, views gold as fine, because gold is a coin. But according to Beit Shammai, gold is currency. According to Beit Shammai, who views gold as merchandise, it's only merchandise as compared to silver, which is more of a currency. But as compared to fruits, it's definitely much less merchandise because it is used to purchase things, and therefore it's fine. Now we're going to skip, okay, I'm just not going to read this whole thing. V'chad amal, af bepeirot al dinarim machloket. Also, peirot to gold is a problem. Okay, and therefore in the second explanation here, that's the main difference. That's why I highlighted. The main difference is here, which is Beit Shammai is going to say You can never change anything into gold. Even fruits to gold doesn't work. Okay, that's the first explanation. We had a question on that, which is, adamiflage b'slaim al dinarim. Okay, we'll leave this question aside. We did that in yesterday's daf. Now we're going to go to the very last 2 lines of the daf. Tistaim of mem dalad amabet. Tistaim de Rabbi Yochanan hu de amar ein mechalale. Okay, now we want to figure out, this is the only time in the daf we're actually going to have an attempt, and we're going to reject it, to figure out which understanding was Rabbi Yochanan and which was Reish Lakish. We're going to suggest that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says ein mechalale, meaning peyrot to gold, Beit Shamai doesn't allow. Okay, that's over here on the second explanation. Why? To Amar Rabbi Yochanan, asur lelavot dinar b'dinar. Right now, we just have a statement. Rabbi Yochanan says you cannot exchange, you can't loan a dinar. Dinar could be gold, could be silver. We're going to have to figure this out. You can't loan a dinar for a dinar. Dinar demai. Why can't you loan a dinar but dinar? You might remember we learned you can't loan a se'ah for a se'ah. Why can't you loan a se'ah for a se'ah? Because you can't loan a se'ah of chitim, weight, a certain volume of grains, and then return it, because there could be interest there. Dinar for dinar also. Now this shows, what does it show? It shows that dinar is treated as merchandise, because you can't loan it. And if it's treated as merchandise, now it depends which one we're talking about dinar, but then we'll be able to fit it in. Let's see. If you say it's silver, you can't do silver for silver, then you'll see that it's silver that's the merchandise. If it's gold, then gold is the merchandise. And then we're going to see gold is the merchandise. It's always treated as merchandise, which means you can never trade it in. And that's what we're going to get to. Dinar demai. Ilema dinar de kesef. If you're going to say it's dinar of kesef, bedinar, ilema dinar bekesef, bedinar shel kesef, you can't loan silver coins and get back silver coins. Well, nobody would think, and I think it's here, part of, I think what they think is absurd is, what do you mean? People are always lending out silver coins. Like, that was the currency they mainly used. And they basically say, everyone thinks, even if you hold like Beit Hillel, that silver is merchandise. Still, compared to itself, you can obviously, silver doesn't fluctuate in value that much. You can loan silver and get silver back. That can't possibly be it. Elapshita dinar shel zahav dinar shel zahav. It must be gold. Okay, it can't possibly be silver. It must be gold. Now, Leman, according to who is the source. Now, let's pull up our screen again. Let's pull up our study guide. If you say gold, according to this, is like merchandise, because you can't lend merchandise for merchandise because it fluctuates in value. Then if you go with Beit Hillel, what does Beit Hillel say? Gold is a coin, is a currency, so it can't possibly be Beit Hillel. Ha'amrei tivahu have it, right? Beit Hillel says it's a coin. It's treated as currency. Elalav leBeit Shamai. It must be to Beit Shamai. And then if you're going to say you can't do it, you can't do gold for gold, that must be you can't do maaser sheni from fruits to gold, right? And we're going to make this comparison. If you can't loan gold and return gold because of the fluctuation in price, then you can't turn peyrot into gold, your produce, your maaser sheni produce, you can't turn into gold because it's going to fluctuate, right? Because we treat gold as merchandise. So that must be Ushmamina, Rabbi Yochanan, hu da'arma ein mechalalim. However, the Gemara is going to reject this and say, lo alam emelcha Rabbi Yochanan hu da'amar mechalalim. You really can say that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says mechalalim, meaning that Beit Shammai allows peyrot to gold, meaning we're now on option 1 in this explanation, which means we're not going to be able to be clear on who holds what, because Rabbi Yochanan could fit in with the end, could fit in with here. And you could say the following, Shane halva'ah, kevan de li'inyan mekach umemkal, shavin hu Rabbanan kipele. De amrina, okay, so now, when it comes, now we're going to go back to our mission. When it comes to, we're going to say the following. What they say about maaser sheni and what they say about loans is 2 totally different things, okay? Now, and then we're going to disconnect this whole thing about loans from our case. Because maaser sheni isn't like loans. What is loans more similar to? Purchases. Now, when it comes to purchases, that was our Mishnah. Zahav koneh kesef, right? Zahav, if you do compare it to kesef, right? Zahav is the one that fluctuates. Zahav is the one that you can acquire. you can do a kinyan with, because remember, you can't do a kinyan with money, but zahav compared to kesef, the zahav is considered the merchandise, the kesef is considered the currency. So since when it comes to purchasing, gold is like merchandise, because that's the one that fluctuates in price. When it comes to rebate and interest and concern that maybe someone will be taking interest, all the more so we're going to say that this is payroll or just as well. And that's specifically, though, loans because of the interest issue, because maybe the price will fluctuate and you'll be getting more back than what you gave, and it will look like interest. Therefore, we're going to treat that like mekachu memkar, like the sale, like our Mishnah, but we are not going to learn from here to maaser sheni. There's different criteria. Hachinami mistaber, and all the more so can we prove this. And I guess this really does sort of prove that Rabbi Yochanan holds by this first option. So maybe I was not accurate in saying we can't really figure out who says what, because they tried to say option 2 is Rabbi Yochanan, but now they're switching back to possibility 1. Rabbi Yochanan, when Rav came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, even though you can't, well, the truth is, let's think whether it really proves it, but it does prove what this proves the distinction we just made. That what's true for mekachu memkar and loans is not true for maaser sheni, because it says even though you can't loan a dinar for a dinar, you could be mechalel maaser sheni alav. You could redeem maaser sheni onto gold. So yeah, I guess you would have to say according to this, if you could redeem maaser sheni onto gold, then what would that be? Obviously, that means payroll onto gold and not silver onto gold. Silver onto gold, we know you can't do. So that's our explanation right now. Okay, Shema Mina. So Rabbi Yochanan is the first option. Now we're going to bring a difficulty. We're going to prove, this is going to be a proof for option 1. Okay, the one we just explained. We're going to try to prove it, and then we're going to reject the proof. This is continuation of that chapter in maaser sheni. Okay, we're going to read a few mishnayot today from maaser sheni from all the same chapter. If you take your parate sela from the ma'od of maaser sheni, what does that mean? You have a sela and you want to divide it up into, you have the opposite. You have copper coins. Let's go through. You have your fruits. You redeem them onto these small copper coins. You don't want to schlep a million small copper coins to the temple. So what do? You redeem it onto a bigger coin, a silver coin. So your parate ma'ot mi'masel sheni. You're basically turning it into, you're exchanging it for a silver coin. Beit Shamai omrim bekol sela ma'ot. You could do a whole sela, right? You could take all your copper coins and turn them into one sela. Beit Hillel omrim b'shekel kesef, b'shekel ma'ot. Sela is 2 shkalim, so which is 4 dinarim, just for your purposes of information. So Beit Hillel says you can only do half. Half you can turn into a silver coin, or less, right? A number of silver coins, less than how many copper coins you have. But the other half you have to leave in ma'ot. You have to leave in these small copper coins. Now, why is that? So let's look at Rashi. He explains very well. Lo yefrot ela chetzion. You can only do half. Sha'prutot yotzot b'Yerushalayim. Because the prutot have to be spent in Jerusalem. Now, you can't come with big money all the time because you're going to buy small things. You're going to need to buy stuff for your meal. You're going to need small money. We're going to create, right? This is a classic economic problem. We're going to create a rush on money that everyone's going to only have big, right? Everyone's going to have only big coins. There's not going to be enough change. If everyone's going to have to go to the shulchani to start getting small money to be able to buy food, what will happen? Yokiru haprutot, the price will go up, the value will go up. And now all the maaser sheni is going to be worth less. We don't want to create a problem that maaser sheni is all going to go down in value because the money, right? There'll be a scarce amount of small coins, and then they're going to demand more to get the small coins, right? Instead of paying a shekel for X amount of prutot, you're going to have to pay much more than that. So basically, we want to make sure that enough people go in with prutot, so only half your money can go into bigger coins. Okay, What does this have to do with anything? Good question. Really, the details of this are not relevant. But what's important? You started off with these copper coins, and then you turned them into silver. Now, if you could turn fruits into copper coins, of course you could turn them into gold coins. Now, why is this of course? Well, and in a minute we're going to reject this and say it's not of course. But the assumption is, remember, we called silver currency and we called gold fluctuating in price. They assume now Beit Hillel had the opposite approach because Beit Hillel said, what do you mean? Gold is more important. Well, the more so it would be important currency. Well, nechoshet, this copper, is really unimportant. And we're going to assume, since it's unimportant, that it's actually less than silver, okay? Like it's not as important as silver in terms of being a currency. And it's also perhaps fluctuates in price. So they assumed right now that nechoshet, if nechoshet works, then of course gold should work because gold is a much more important one that people would want to use more in a sense for currency because it has importance. Even though that's not true, and that's what the Gemara is going to say. They said, what are you talking about? Shani prute, ba'atra tesagi, and charife. What do you mean? Prutot, in a place where they use the prutot, which obviously we're talking about people who use these, it actually is more significant to currency than gold. Because again, who uses gold, right? Who uses high bills, right? People don't really use those so much. The small coins are actually used much more so in currency, and therefore that wouldn't prove anything. Right? What were we trying to prove? That according to Beit Shamai, fruits can be transferred to gold, because remember, if you look at the chart, you'll see that that's the distinction. Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen. That's the distinction between the first understanding and the second understanding. Remember, whether payroll can be turned into gold, according to the first, which we thought if payroll can be turned into nechoshet, that could be turned into gold, to which we say, no. Nechoshet is much more, copper is much more currency that's used rather than gold. Okay, that was all, the whole first explanation. And then within that, we had two explanations of what Rabbi Yochanan and what Reish Lakish said. We seem to be saying that Rabbi Yochanan is the first and Reish Lakish is the second. Now we're going to go to Lishna Acharina. But now we're going to have a whole second understanding that the machloket doesn't have to do with coins, right, currency versus merchandise, but it's going to be a whole different machloket. Actually, a little bit simpler to understand in my mind. Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, Chadamar, machloket b'slaim al dinarim. Okay, everyone agrees that the machloket is slaim to dinarim. The question is, right, is it in other cases as well or not? And we'll see. So again, we're going to see that according to the first explanation, the only machloket is slaim al dinarim. In all the other cases, you can see here, they agree. We don't really know what they would say from gold to silver, and that's why I left it out. But they say the following. Debate Shamai Savre ha-kesef, kesef rishon velo kesef sheni. Okay, which means, okay, here's a whole different explanation. You can't take, because it says you have to redeem maaser sheni onto money, you can only do it onto money once. You can't do it onto money twice. So you can't take it from silver, which is already your currency. Now, it's a little bit based on the currency, and that's why I specifically left out gold to silver. So I'll hold off on that, and I'll get back to it in a minute. You can go from fruits to money. You can go from fruit to silver. You can go from fruits to gold. That can do. That's one. But you can't go from fruits to silver, take your silver, turn it into gold. That's a problem because it says kesef, and we say kesef rishon, not kesef sheni. Only one time can you redeem it before you get to Jerusalem onto money. Now, why would you think that maybe gold to silver you could do? You could do fruits to gold and gold to silver. Perhaps here Beit Shammai again holds that gold is more like merchandise. So moving fruits to gold might be moving it more to merchandise and then from there to silver. But it's not clear. I'm going to really ignore that right now because that's not really what they're relating to. Ubeit Hillel savre ha-kesef kesef riba. The pasuk says v'natata ha-kesef, okay, the money, or v'natata b'kesef etzarta ha-kesef biyadecha, okay, take the kesef in your hand. The kesef, why did it just say take money in your hand? Because it says ha-kesef, from there they assume it means even kesef sheni. That includes even moving, right, fruits to coins again. Now you might remember we had the whole thing with the nechoshet. You could do the nechoshet into silver. So we'll get back to that. Aval peirot al dinarim divrei HaKol. But fruits to gold, of course you could do that because that's kesef rishon. Right, that kate kesef rishon, because that's just one transfer. But the second understanding, remember, this Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, and their understanding of the machloket. Okay, even fruits to gold is still a problem. Okay, now here you would have to say, like we said before, which is Beit Shamai thinks that kesef is a coin, but zahav is merchandise, and therefore you can't, and that's across the board, the extreme position, and therefore you can't ever turn fruits into gold. Ulamanda amar. Now, we're going to go back and ask the similar type question we asked at the bottom of yesterday's stuff, which is if you're going to say slaim al dinarim machloket, okay? Now, if you're going to say that from slaim to dinarim is the machloket, which is the first option, and that's the only, well, then you should say ademiflage b'slaim al dinarim liflag b'slaim al slaim. If you're going to say the whole issue is kesef rishon and not kesef sheni, then the more unique case would be to say you can't even turn silver into silver. So why didn't it bring that case? Why did it have to say silver to gold? Should have said silver to silver, because once you redeemed it once, you can't redeem it again onto another coin. So they're saying no. They didn't want to say that that was the case because if lug bislaim al slaim hava mine hanim mine bislaim al slaim ava bislaim al dinarim mode lebeit Shamai. If you had said the machloket was slaim to slaim, okay, which they do disagree about, but you would have thought maybe only in that case Beit Hillel disagrees. And maybe when it comes to silver to gold, then you would think that Beit Hillel would agree with Beit Shammai and say, right, why? Because maybe Beit Hillel would think, now, Hillel, we didn't say that before, but again, we're all trying to figure out what Beit Hillel thought. You might have thought the Dava, that maybe Beit Hillel would agree with Beit Shammai that relatively, right, that kesef is much more currency and gold is more like merchandise. So maybe they would think that kesef to zahav, you actually couldn't do either. Okay. And the fact is, Beit Hillel says that that's fine because he has no problem turning things from fruits to silver to gold. So therefore, they specifically gave it in that case, kamashmala. Okay. So that's option 2. Now we're going to have a question, a difficulty, another difficulty. Tashma, okay, again, on the first possibility. Our first difficulty was on the first possibility. Now we're having a second. Again, it's confusing to use the words possibility. We have understanding number 1, right? We finished with that. Now we're up to understanding number 2 of the debate between them. Within that, there's 2 options, right? So now we're on option 1 within the second explanation. So Tashma, haporet sela shamaser sheni b'Yerushalayim. If you, the whole explanation here, let's just go back again. Beit Shamai says, you can't turn money into gold, money into silver, and then into gold. You can't really turn money into silver and then into silver either. So now another Mishnah maaser sheni in that chapter says, if you redeem, you now want to get change for your coins. So you take your sela and you want to get coins for it in Jerusalem. So what do? Beit Shammai omrim bekol hasela ma'ot. You could get as many fruitot as you want for that. Beit Hillel omrim b'shekel kesef b'shekel ma'ot. Okay, Beit Hillel says you have to get, right? Now, right, this is the reverse of the previous case, but they both say the same thing. Beit Shammai says, go to Jerusalem, get as many coins as you want. Beit Hillel says, no, half in small coins and half leave bigger, because otherwise, again, there's going to be a run on the money and then they're going to raise the prices. So hashta kaspka l'gabe prite. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, if kaspka l'gabe prite mechalali. Now, look, you can take kesef and you can do fruits to coins, right? To silver coins to copper coins. So what's that if not kesef sheni? So difficulty with option 1, right? Hashta kaspka l'gabe prite mechalali. If you can move silver into copper coins, below amrin on kesef rishon below kesef sheni, and the whole kesef rishon not kesef sheni doesn't even apply here. Of course, if gold is more significant than copper, right? You wouldn't think that kesef rishon and lo kesef sheni would apply here. So how can we say that? Now you might have caught on to this, but if not, it'll be very clear what the problem with this whole question is in the first place. Amarava Yerushalayim kamote. Wait, when we say kesef rishon, not kesef sheni, that's all the redemption of the coins bring them to Jerusalem. Once you get to Jerusalem, it's a whole different story. Once you're in Jerusalem, you're supposed to spend the money in Jerusalem. And then there's no problem of first getting change and then spending your money. At that point, you can do kesef sheni. Kesef rishon below kesef sheni is just until you get to Jerusalem. So Yerushalayim kamot v'shani Yerushalayim diftive v'natata kesef b'chol asher taveh nafshecha b'bakar batzon. You can spend your money on anything you want. That means you could turn it into coins. So that doesn't disprove anything. Okay, third difficulty. And with this, we're actually going to reject option number 2, that the machloket is kesef rishon below kesef sheni. Tashma, haporet sela mimaot maaser sheni. Now we're back to the source we saw before. You're outside Jerusalem. You have all these little coins that you've been slowly collecting your maaser sheni onto, redeeming it. And now you want to turn it into a bigger coin, so you have less to schlep. Beit Shamai omrim b'kol sela maot. And Beit Hillel omrim b'shekel kesef b'shekel maot. Now, what do you see here? No, this clearly is kesef sheni. You took it from fruits, you turned it onto copper, then you turned it onto silver, and it's okay. So that basically rejects this understanding of Beit Shamai, because everyone agrees that you're allowed to do that. So, ela de kule alma hakesef kesef riba, afilu kesef sheni. Everybody thinks there's no problem to turn it to one money and then move it on to other money. But ela iitmar de Rabbi Yochanan for Shimon ben Lakish hachi itmar. So we basically reject the whole second understanding. Okay, so let's go back to our chart, and we're basically going to, for all intents and purposes, erase this whole section. Okay, this is not the case. So now we're going to go to the third option of what the machloket, and the final option of what the machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is. Rabbi Yochanan said this is what they said. Machloket b'slaim al dinarim. So the first one again, the main thing, and this is why I highlighted in yellow, every time we're going to say basically that the machloket between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan is, do they only argue on kesef to gold, or do they also argue on peyrot to gold? Okay, meaning, right, like we explained it yesterday, is Beit Shammai extreme in disagreeing with Beit Hillel about both cases? Anything onto gold can't be done, or is it less extreme? But the question is, the less extreme opinion changes each time. Why is it less extreme? And here we're actually going to have a totally different understanding of the debate, really having nothing to do with whether it's considered currency or merchandise. So Beit Shammai Savrai, and with this we're going to turn to Amud Bet. Gazrinan Shema Yashhe Aliyotav. Dezimnin de lo malu zuze bedinare, below masik. What's the problem? We don't want you to leave to delay. Okay? In other words, what's the problem? We're worried that you're going to delay bringing your stuff to Jerusalem until, if we allow you to move silver to gold. Now remember, we wanted before to move your copper to silver so that you don't have to schlep so much. Now, if there's 25 dinare kesef in 1 dinar of zahav, you can imagine instead of schlepping 25 coins, you want to get 1 gold coin. But it's going to take you a while to have enough maaser sheni money to get up to there. So you're going to push it off. Rashi even says, right? You're going to be saving it for the next year till you get enough money. So basically, according to Beit Shammai, they made this gzerah, meaning you can actually do this by Torah law. But the rabbi said, don't do this, because we're going to end up, people are going to push off their maaser sheni, and then they won't bring it. We're not worried you're going to do that. Because even if you don't get up to the gold, you'll bring the silver. In other words, the whole question here is, are people going to say, I don't want to schlep all the silver, I'm just going to wait a long time till I get enough silver to change it onto a gold coin? And Beit Hillel, who says we're not worried about that. People are not going to push up bringing their maaser money just because they don't have enough to get up to a gold coin. But everybody thinks that you can take your fruits and turn it onto gold, because there's no point to make a gzera in that case. Why not? Why wouldn't you say maybe people are going to push off, collect a lot of fruits until they can redeem it all on a gold coin? Well, for obvious reasons. Because they rot, lo mashilu. People aren't going to leave it until they're rotten already, and then they're not worth anything. But the other opinion, the second opinion, right? Remember, Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish says, afilu bepeirot al dinarim nami machloket. Even in that case, okay, and here's where I highlighted it, even peirot to gold, Beit Shammai says we're going to make a gzera. We don't want to have anything turned onto gold, because we think people are going to delay, and we don't want people to delay, and we're worried that they will do that. Okay, let's see now where we have a problem here. Okay, so we're going to have another question like we did with everyone, which is now we're going to have, actually we're not going to have a problem really. What we're going to say is this explanation seems to make the most sense. The whole option, right? Option 3 now, this whole option, which is all based on the issue that on a Torah level, there's really no problem to turn silver into gold. This has nothing to do with all the things we mentioned earlier. It's just a rabbinic decree. Well, then it actually makes sense in the wording of the Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah in maaser sheni, hainu dekatane ya'aseh v'lo ya'aseh. That's why the language used of that Mishnah was, Beit Shamai said, lo ya'aseh adam sla'im dinarei zahav. Don't make your silver into gold coins, right? But if it really meant it's forbidden by Torah law, it should have, right? It's all about a Torah level issue. It should have said, you can be mechalel, you can't be mechalel, you can redeem your coins onto this, you can't redeem. If it's right or wrong, yes, you can, you can't. Instead of don't make your coins into this, sounds like don't do it because you might cause some sort of a problem. Okay, and with that, we finish this complicated section on 3 different ways to explain the machloket Beit Shammai Beit Hillel. Maybe here is a good time to review before we do the end of the daf. We'll do our review of this section here, which is there machloket? Which is the currency and which is the merchandise? That was option 1. And then we just had a debate between option 1 and option 2 within option 1, which was, is Beit Shammai complete? Is it relative? Like, the first option is it's all relative. So payroll to gold you could do, because compared to payroll, gold is actually not merchandise. Only compared to silver, we view it as merchandise. Whereas Beit Shammai, in the second explanation, is the extreme position, never zahav. Gold is always considered merchandise. Then we went to option 2, which we eventually rejected, which was, is the machloket whether you can do kesef rishon and not kesef sheni? Can you only redeem it onto one coin and not a second coin? Again, before you get to Jerusalem. Once you get to Jerusalem, you can. Or can you do it on as many coins as you want? And then, right, the second option was, right, the second option within this went back to which is coin and which is merchandise, and and then that stayed the same, by the way. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but the second option stayed the same as it was in the first option, in the first whole reading of the machloket. Then, according to the third explanation, there's really no Torah issue here, which we then tried to prove, and perhaps successful in proving it from the language in the Mishnah, in maaser sheni, which is lo yaseh, don't do it, but don't do it really because we're worried if we allow you to switch silver to gold, you might push off bringing your maaser until you get enough silver coins to switch to the gold. And then the machloka between option 1, version 1 and version 2 was do we make the gzera also with fruits, or are we not worried about fruits because fruits will rot? No one's going to push it off for so long. Okay, now we're going to go to the second part of today's shiur. Itmar. Rav and Levi. Chanamar matbea nasa Chalipin. V'chanamar ein matbea nasa Chalipin. Okay, let's talk about Chalipin. There's 2 types of kinyan Chalipin. The big debate about which one exactly we're talking about here. I'll try not to get too much into that. But Chalipin is when I trade, I do a barter, one thing for another. Sometimes I do it where they're valued at the same thing. Like we had a case in Bava Kama, machlif para b'chamol, right? You switch one for the other, and as soon as one person pulls one animal, the other one is already acquired, even if it hasn't moved into their domain. That's how you do kinyanim, right? One person moves one, and then the bartered item is already belonging to the other person, even if it's not in their domain. Sometimes you do what's called the kinyan sudar. That's a type of chalipin, where it's symbolic. The item you're picking up, you're actually not even going to keep, probably. We usually do it with a handkerchief, and that is just symbolic. Now, there's a concept that Chalipin doesn't really work with something that's not a vessel. This whole is learned out from Shalat Ishna Alo, which comes up in Sefer Rut, where they take the shoe off and the whole chalitza thing, and that the shoe is a symbolic acquiring there. Okay, now, has to be then something that's like a shoe. So matbea, can a matbea be used as Chalipin? Like, let's say, now normally, let's go back, movable items, we don't purchase with money. What does that mean? Of course, we pay money for them. But if I paid money and didn't get the item yet, it's not mine. Okay, so if something happens to it, it's your responsibility. It's still yours. You'll have to replace it for me. Once I acquire it, it's my responsibility, even if it's not in my domain. But money is not a way of acquiring. It works for land and other things, but it doesn't work for, it works in marriage, betrothal. It doesn't work for movables. So the question is, what if we use the money as a symbolic kind of thing? Or let's even put it like the cow for the donkey. What if I say I'm trading you gold for silver? And trading as a trade, not as I'm buying your gold for X amount of silver coins, right? And let's say there's 25 dinarim. So I'm giving you 25 dinarim. You're giving me one gold coin. I take the 25 dinarim. Is the sale done? Is the gold yours at that point? Because now what really depends on is how I said it. If I said I'm paying you 25 coins for the gold, that would be paying. But if I did it in an act of Chalipin, we're doing a barter, we're trading, then perhaps when I pull the silver, maybe it will work. So here we have a machloka Rav and Levi about it. One says you could use a coin for that, and the other says ein matbea nasa chalipin. So now Rav Papa comes and says, my time, what's the reason? Leman amal ein matbea nasa chalipin. What's the reason for the one who says it doesn't work? Mishum didate atzurata v'tzurata avida debatla. The coin has no real inherent value. How does a coin? This is all like a fascinating economics shiur in general, this whole chapter, which is what's right. Also, the whole thing is gold merchandise, or is gold a coin, right? How do we use it? Is it a currency? What gives a currency value? The king in those days, right? The king gave it value, and its value is based on the form, whatever the I can't think of the word, the imprint on the coin, okay, or I can't think of the word of what you call it, but that is the value of the coin. If the king decides that's not a coin anymore, it's out of commission, that currency. So the whole, I give you a coin, when I take your coins, my mind is on the tsura on the coins, the imprint on the coins, but not, that is avida de batla. That's not anything real, because the king to decide tomorrow, that's nothing. So I don't buy it for the silver and the value of the silver in it. I buy it for its symbolic value. That's not something real. That doesn't have inherent value. So now that's how Rav Papa explains the opinion that says matbea is not nasa chalipin. So now we're going to bring a difficulty on this. Hazahav koneh et hakesef. What does it mean, zahav koneh et hakesef? Now, so when I give you gold for my silver, if we pull the silver, it doesn't work. But if we pull the gold, right? If you take the gold, then the silver becomes mine. Because remember, the silver is, this was going to Beit Shamai, the silver is the currency. And therefore the silver doesn't work, but the gold is like the merchandise. So the gold works. So that's a kinyan. Now, my lab b'chalipin, were we not talking about chalipin here? Meaning, wait, it's not that you're paying silver for gold. It's that you're trading here. You're trading commodities. We're trading gold for silver. That's a trade. That's a barter, or at least they're thinking. That's the question. And what do you see here? The matbea could make a chalipin. Just one second. I want to look up one thing. Okay. So now they're saying, so it sounds like, because they say the zahav is koneh hakesef, think about the wording, something weird about the wording, and eventually they're going to change the wording. But zahav koneh hakesef, it means when you take the gold, the silver is acquired to me now. But wait, if silver is money, right, it sounds like we're doing a barter here. And what do you see? It looks like matbea is nasa chalipin, to which they say, lo bidamim. No, you misunderstood the source. This doesn't mean that things could be acquired. You could use a coin for Chalipin purposes. This means that when I give you the gold, you are now required to pay me by law. In other words, because you acquired the gold, you now have an obligation upon you to pay silver. So they say, then the wording doesn't match. Like I said, that was where they thought so in the first place. It sounds like gold acquires silver, that you then acquire my silver, which sounds like it's Chalipin. To which they say, mechayev mebayle. It should have said, gold is mechayev, obligates you to pay the silver that you owe me, to pay the money. To which they say, okay, so change the wording of the Mishnah. Tnei azahav mechayev. Okay, that's the way you should read the Mishnah. And in fact, hachinami mistarba, we can even further prove that reading, that it really just means that you now owe me money, because midikatani seifa, Hakesef eino koneh et hazahav. Says, but money can't purchase you gold. Now, if you're going to say it means that the silver is money and we're not talking about Chalipin here, then if we were talking about Chalipin, then it should work also in both directions. Kesef should be able to acquire Zahav because Kesef is just being symbolic, right? We're doing a barter here. Barter would mean that the money basically turns into a merchandise. But if you say it's money, then it makes sense why you say, because the gold is the merchandise and the silver is the coin. And that's why, right? Tiva pere lo kane, right? You can't acquire, remember, that's the whole basis. You can't acquire merchandise by paying money, even though nowadays that's what you would say. Halacha, no. Money, giving the money doesn't acquire your merchandise. Ella, if you said it was Chalipin, they should each be able to acquire the other. So it must be that that's the case. And furthermore, we're going to prove it's really damim here. It's really its value, which again, then it won't raise a question on emat be'anasa Chalipin. Because now they're going to say the od, one second, right, the od, Tanya hakesef eno konet hazahav ketzad. Now we're going to bring a braita that's going to further prove this. It says, money, this is going to be an expansion braita. It's going to take the sentences in the Mishnah and explain them better. Hakesef eno konet hazahav ketzad. How would this work? The kesef can't acquire gold. Machar lo 25 dinarim shel kesef, for example. You're selling me 25 silver coins, b'dinar shel zahav, and I'm giving you 1 gold coin. Even though I pull the money, lo kana ad shim shochet zahav. Until you pull the zahav, there's no deal here. Which again means, right, if something happens to it, whoever, right, there is in their domain still, whoever the owner of it is the one responsible. It doesn't matter whose domain it's in. And it also means, by the way, we can change our minds if we want, as long as there's no kinyan yet. So now, why does this prove anything? If you're saying it's money, then it was sold as money mishum hachi lo kani, right? That's why it doesn't work, because the silver is the money here, and it's used as money. But Chalipin nikne. But if you said it's Chalipin, it should work. Elamai bedamim. Okay, it must be damim. But wait, here comes the question. So they're going to say, wait, so then you think it's damim? You think the kesef is just acting as money here? You weren't doing a Chalipin here? Well, there's a problem though, because the earlier part of that braita reads the following. Hazahav konet kesef ketzad. So gold could acquire money as silver. How so? Macharlu dinar shel zahav be-25 dinarim shel kesef. So again, I'm selling you 1 dinar of zahav. You're giving me 25 of silver. Kevan shemashachet hazahav. So once I give you the gold, nikne kesef bekol makom shehu. So the money becomes acquired wherever it is. The 25 silver coins I promised you, wherever they are, will be yours. This is going to be a big problem. If we say silver is just that you pull the zahav, I now have to pay you the 25 silver. We have a problem here. Because what does this say? Zahav nikne, right? Once you pull the zahav, the 25 silver coins that I committed to you are yours, wherever they are on my property. They could be here, they could be in some other house of mine, they're yours. Now, if we say we're doing a barter, these 25 coins I have for your 1 gold coin, then it makes perfect sense. That's why it says, wherever those 25 coins are, they're yours. That works a lot better with Chalipin, not with money, because if we say it's just money, that I now owe you 25 silver coins, I don't owe you any particular 25 silver coins. I owe you 25 silver coins. I could take ones from here, I could take ones from there, I could take wherever I have money. It doesn't make a difference. There's no specific 25 silver coins that are now yours, that are in my possession. It's just that I owe you the money. So that doesn't seem to work with the wording in that braita. So until now, we're basically saying all these sources are talking about damim, they're not talking about Chalipin, which means we can't raise it as a question if you say ma'od can't be Chalipin, because these weren't even talking about that. Okay, we don't know what we would say about Chalipin, but we can't reject it from here. But this really seems to be saying it is talking about Chalipin. Otherwise, why would they be yours, those 25 silver coins that I have sitting in my house in who knows where? So they're now going to have to say, right? If you're going to say bedamim, it should have said, I am now required to give you the money. So Amar Ravashi lo olam bedamim, it really is damim. Umay b'chol makom shehu kimotchu. Doesn't mean wherever they are. It means as they are. What does that mean? As they are? Kedamar, as I promised you. Meaning, I have to give you money as I promised. What does that mean? Well, I told you I'm going to give you new money. I might have old money that's actually maybe even better than the new money. But if I promised you new money, I have to give you new money like I told you. My time out. And then this has nothing to do with anything about Chalipin. This is really just I owe you money. But the reason it said B'kom Kamshu, it meant as I promised you. And then it means, right, now what's the reason why I would have to give you, let's say new money's worse. Well, why would I have to give you the new money if that's what I committed to you? Because the Amrle, you could say to me, I want these to last a really long time. And even though maybe for some reason, I'm not sure why, old money would be better, but over the long term, it's not going to be better because eventually it will blacken and it won't be valued anymore at what it was. And that's why you could claim you want the new money. But anyway, this has nothing to do with our topic. Okay. Amar of Papa, landing here. Afilu lamanda amar emat be'anasa Chalipin, me'abed hu delo avid Chalipin, aknuye mikne be'Chalipin. Now, even if you say you can't use a matbea to do the Chalipin transaction, meaning if I give you the silver as Chalipin, as a barter, I won't acquire the gold. But so me'abidu delo abi Chalipin, you can't use the silver as the object that we're going to use for acquiring. But aknuye mikne be'Chalipin, but I could acquire the money by doing an act of Chalipin. Like if I want to acquire silver, I want to buy silver, so I can't barter with you, and then as soon as I give you the silver, the deal is done. But if you want to buy my silver and I give you gold for it, as soon as you pull the gold, the silver is mine. I can acquire the silver. If I have specific silver I want to do a barter with, I can acquire it through Chalipin. That's the other perspective. Is I can't use it at the Chalipin transaction. Once the Chalipin transaction is done, that silver's mine, even if it's still in your possession. How do we know? We did have a peri Rav Nachman. Just like Rav Nachman says about merchandise. Peri Rav Nachman, now, fruits can't be used as Chalipin. Why not? Because they rot and they'll go bad soon. They're not something that has inherent value for a different reason, right? Coins don't have inherent value because you look at them for the tzula, not for the imprint, but not for the value of them. Fruits are just going to go bad soon, so they don't have real value for the long term. So therefore, you can't use them for Chalipin. But but if you gave me gold and then the fruits became mine just as soon as I pulled the gold, as you pulled the gold. So tivanami loshna. So matbeot, coins would be no different. Okay, so you'd read it. The first section now, this last section was just about, can you use matbea for Chalipin or not? We said there's some machloket. We tried to disprove one of the approaches, but we said no, all the sources we brought really weren't talking about Chalipin. They were talking about a money transaction where the kesef was functioning as money, not was functioning as a trade, a barter. But if it was a barter, we have a debate whether it can work or not. And even if you say it doesn't work, you could actually acquire kesef through a Chalipin transaction, but you would have to pull the other item in order for it to take effect. That's it for today. Quite a complicated daf. I hope you understood it. It's another one of those dafim that probably is good if you review it afterwards. It will help you understand it better, even though I know you don't always have the time. But hopefully, as we go through this chapter, things will become more clear. We'll review concepts, and it's a lot of new stuff to kind of get around. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavua Tov.